Hello, hello, people. Everyone's starting to arrive. Hello, Sharon. Bonnie, Ruth, Amanda, and Yesenia. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation. You can always update me. My name's Nicole, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. I'm going to kind of take my time getting started, give people a couple minutes to arrive. And if you'd like, you can drop in the chat and let me know where you're calling from. And just say hello.
Yeah. Okay.
And Sharon's calling in from Frederick. That's where I am too. I know some of the other people here are from Frederick, and some other people signed up online who I haven't met before. Hi, from California. And is it Yesenia? Awesome. Welcome. So I'll go ahead and just kind of get started, and we might have some other people who join in here. Thank you all for being here today. I'm really excited. I've been really looking forward to doing this masterclass a lot. And so I'm a somatic coach, and I'm also a somatic and craniosacral therapist. Everything, I just love doing stuff that has to do with the body and the nervous system. So a lot of my work is rooted in somatic experiencing. My training as a somatic experiencing practitioner and a craniosacral therapist. And I'm going to get a little bit more into my story of how I ended up here then. But I really care about helping women access more ease, more freedom. And I really believe that that starts in the body, and it translates out from the body and the nervous system into our businesses, into our lives. So we're here to do money work today. And I'm curious if maybe the folks who are here, if you want to just like drop maybe in the chat, like how much money work have you done? Is this kind of like you're just getting started with it, or you've been doing work on it for like maybe years? Just curious to kind of hear people's experience with where they're at on their inner money work journey. And I really want to just commend everyone who's here. So let's see, beginner. And let's see if anyone else chimes in there. Just kind of curious where you are at with your money work. On and off for about 5 years. Hi, Carrie. Started money work journey the last couple years, but many steps to keep going. And it's definitely can be a lifelong journey, even once it starts getting going, you know, and there's flow happening, there's always deepening. So yeah, I just want to commend everyone who's here to look at this on a deeper level, because there's a lot of shame wrapped up in money in our culture. This is kind of a taboo topic. It's not something that we talk about that openly, and there can even kind of be like a sense of, oh, does this belong with like healing work? Does this belong with spiritual work? And so I just want to say that just being here in the first place is a really great step to deepening into your journey with money. And so why do I think it's so important that we look at the nervous system and the level of the body with this? I don't know if with everyone else's like money work that they've done so far, there can be a lot of money mindset work to do out there, which is really great. And what I kind of find with money mindset work is it goes to a certain level, but oftentimes there are things that are under the surface of that are held in our bodies and nervous systems that the money mindset work just doesn't really get to. And so that's why I really believe in taking it to this other level. And just one thing that I kind of want to bring in with you guys today is this certain visual, and we'll refer back to it at different times throughout the call, but you can just kind of tap in and see like money flows into your life. It kind of circulates in and is held in your life, and it flows out. And see if there's an image that pops up for you, like maybe there's like a creek or a river that flows in to like a lake or like a reservoir, right? And it's held, and then some of it also flows out. So this is something that we actually can start to experience in our bodies. And our bodies are tuned in to that actual natural rhythm and natural cycle, to the energy of what's happening in the world around us, including money, which has its own energy. And so we can learn a lot about what's happening in our relationship with money by what's happening in our bodies and nervous systems. So just see if you can kind of hold that image with you. Come back to it here and there throughout the call today. We're going to be really curious about where there is constriction, where there is openness, because that flow in, the ability for it to be held in this space and to flow out, that's like a somatic experience. That's something that we can feel in our bodies. And if we are having survival responses come up, feeling unsafe in any of those areas, we can have constricted flow. And, it makes a lot of sense, especially for women entrepreneurs, that money, like for anyone, but especially for entrepreneurs, that money has charge around it, right? It is something that in this society, in this world, that we use to meet our basic needs. And those basic needs have survival energy attached to them: food, water, shelter, medicine, all those things. And, there's also an element of that money kind of helps us feel like we belong, right? It's like being connected with other people, whether or not we feel comfortable with the amount of money that we have, and how that has us feeling in relationship to others, and whether we might feel ashamed or we might feel proud. And so our sense of belonging also has really a lot of roots in our nervous system, because as humans, we're wired for connection. We're wired to be interacting with each other, receive support from each other. And so there's another reason why it's so important, why there is that charge. And then also because every generation that passes, we are inheriting things and we are carrying things on, like the good and the bad, right, from our ancestors along those ancestral lines. It's not just about our own life and what's happened in our lives, but our bodies also carry sort of like imprints of, whether our ancestors had certain places they were really resilient, and maybe we carry that with us. But there may also be experiences of poverty, of scarcity. There could be famines, right? Like, just looking back, there's a lot of, it really comes back to like, what is the experience of scarcity in our nervous systems, and whether that's directly related to money or not. It can also be connected to just our sense of our own enoughness. So scarcity kind of comes in with money a lot. And so I wanted to get a little bit more, just tell you a little bit more about my story, how I ended up doing what I do. And, I spent my 20s, pretty much a lot of my life, I've been an entrepreneur. So through my 20s, I worked in like sustainability and permaculture and organic farming. And, honestly, it was pretty tough. Like, I didn't have the best experience of being an entrepreneur. In some ways, I was trying to find like what I wanted to do and find my purpose, and I wasn't necessarily feeling completely fulfilled. Like, I'm more in what I'm meant to be doing now, way more in what I'm meant to be doing now. But I also definitely had some real wounds around like wanting to prove myself, from like earlier in my life. And so there was a lot of energy of like, I have to make this work. And I wasn't really always listening to my body, right? I was like bypassing my physical signals. I was bypassing like my intuition that told me different things, like kind of my gut actually told me not to for my ex-husband and I to buy a farm, for instance. So there was a lot that I wasn't really hearing or choosing to listen to in my body, and a lot of different factors. But I ended up getting really sick when I was 27. So I had a near-death experience, was in and out of the hospital, bedridden for a while, ended up with Lyme disease. So I ended up in this really deep healing journey. where I really was being asked to listen to my body in ways that I hadn't before. And so I really started, I mean, this took years, you know, to kind of like recover from that. But over time, I started learning how to listen. I started learning like what was a yes and what was a no, like which direction would I go to find healing? I started healing old traumas and just also started dropping in like that I wanted to help people heal. So I didn't really know exactly how I wanted to do that. Um, but yeah, I was a little bit hesitant to like start having my own business again after just not having like the best experience of it. Some part of me was like, why can't I just do the easy thing and just like work for someone else like a lot of other people do, right? And I went for it and I started, you know, my own business again. And I also had some part-time work for a while as I kind of built into continuing to train and just build up this new endeavor. And so when I first started coaching, I was working more like with people who were recovering from chronic illness and just doing emotional healing work. And over time, I started actually, I had quite a lot of clients who, even though it wasn't like primarily why they came to me, they also happened to be entrepreneurs. And I just started to kind of see like, oh, wow, there's something to this. And we were starting to work more with like how they would show up with their business or how their intuition and their body like wanted to speak to them and guide them in their businesses. And so over time, I started really noticing that and noticing more myself, reflecting on my previous experience and being like, oh, wow, like there's a lot to being an entrepreneur and there's a lot in the nervous system around being an entrepreneur. So I started just taking everything that I was learning from somatic experiencing and all my trainings and started applying it more to just all of the things that come up for entrepreneurs and then also with money. And so that is kind of how I've like built what I have now. And I would say that one of the things that really clued me in the most, like the first year that I was really like officially out there coaching, I've definitely had a lot of intuition on board and I was like excited and had sparks of things to do, but I would take these like expansive steps, like do an interview on a podcast or something, right? And then afterwards, I would have this like huge contraction in my body where it was like expand, body cannot hold this expansion, contract in and just be like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I thinking? I can't do this. And so there were a couple different things happening at that time, but I had also been studying craniosacral therapy for a few years and I decided like I really wanted to go to school and get my license to touch and like be able to actually practice craniosacral therapy. So I kind of like eased off of coaching for a little bit and went back to school. And like when I did that, something relaxed and then like more clients started showing up. And so, yeah, just continued on that journey of working in both of these worlds and just continuing to learn more about the nervous system. So that's kind of like my background of how I ended up here and just deepening into like, all right, how do we bridge the gap between the nervous system and money and entrepreneurship? So on our call today, we are going to, in a minute, we'll kind of do a landing practice where we just help ourselves land here in the space together. And then we're going to go through 2 different somatic practices and I'll kind of like teach a little bit along the way, kind of what we're doing. So we can, first we'll kind of explore a family money story that might be living in your body. And then we're going to explore kind of like what we want our relationship with money to feel like. And then at the end, I'm going to take a little time to talk about the program that I have coming up this fall, and then just kind of have some space for question and answers. And I also just want to encourage like interaction when we're on the call, because it's helpful for you to know everyone has different nervous systems. So as we're going, it's kind of helpful to know a little bit about what's going on for you. So feel free to drop things in the chat or here and there, I might open it up to turning the mics off. So feel free to interact and let me know what's going on for you. So let's just take a moment to drop in and do this little landing exercise here. We want to maybe just start first by sensing the chair that you're sitting in and sensing your feet on the floor. And then take a moment to just look around the room that you're in a little bit. Orienting to the space where you are, this moment in time and this room that you're in. And let your eyes wander a little bit. And see what you notice in your body while you do that. And then just be curious about how you are inhabiting your upper body right now versus your lower body. So a lot of us tend to have more awareness in our upper body and kind of spend more time up here. So just like check in with that. And if there's more presence up here than down in your legs and your hips, just see if you can bring some awareness into your hips, your thighs, your legs and feet. Just hold some awareness there and just see if your body kind of wants to just sink a little bit deeper into your lower body, into those hips, into the legs. And starting to sense down below your feet, down into the earth, down into Mother Earth down there, supporting you. And you can send some roots down into the earth. Just allowing yourself to rest in that support, receive that support. And then what we'll do is just a check-in. You can ask yourself, ask your body, what is the most resourced part of me right now? Where is my resource right now? So this could be a part of your body that feels grounded or steady, or it could feel soft or just pleasant. And so just taking that in, whatever part of your body is just feeling the most resourced. It's a resource for you right now. And just make a note of what that is, and we might come back to it later. And just notice in this moment, is there anything different about how you feel now versus 5 minutes ago? Before we did this practice, kind of just noticing anything that's different. And then I'd love to just hear from you if you want to, you can come off mic or you can drop it in the chat. Like what was your resource that came up for you? What's the most resource part of you or something that felt resourcing for you right now? Hands, legs, heart, nice. Feet, your spine, awesome. Yeah, those are great resources. And I definitely, yeah, my hands resting on my thighs and my skin feels soft, so it was pleasurable. Heart and mind, nice. Yeah, I love those. And a lot of those are ones that I do see coming up as resources for a lot of people. Good ones to go to if you're feeling dysregulated, to kind of go to your hands or go to your feet. So yeah, I introduced 3 little kind of practices in there that I think are really foundational. And if you can even walk away just bringing those in to your daily life, orienting, taking in the space that you're in. Hey, Bonnie, do you think you can mute yourself? For some reason, I can't. So just orienting, taking in the space that you're in, finding a resource in your body, and grounding. 3 just super solid skills to have. And so now we're gonna start shifting gears and get a little bit deeper into like a practice where we're really gonna kind of start working with some content around money. But I first wanted to just help everyone land a little bit more in their bodies. So this first practice is for us to kind of get curious about like what is here, what's being held here that, probably like isn't even ours. It might be from our parents, it might be from school, it might be from ancestors, like it might be from, family, whatever we experienced growing up. And so just taking a moment and just, if you want to just shout out some in the chat, like what are some beliefs that you're pretty sure that you are holding from the way that money was like in your family, or just like in the town that you grew up in this where you went to school, whatever it was. I'm just curious, what are some beliefs? Like it might be like money doesn't grow on trees, that's a great example. So I'm just curious to hear what comes up for you. Money is identity and success/achievement. You need to hustle. Yeah. Yeah. Like you need to work hard for money. You have to spend money. That one went away fast. You have to spend money to make money. Money is hard to make. I have to make this work. Yep. Have to make this work in all capitals. Gold digger, always work. Money doesn't grow on trees. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you guys for chiming in. These are really good. And I think can everyone kind of feel feel that these are pretty like societal too? Never stop working. I think also just like that you're supposed to work for like 30, 40, 50 years and then you like retire and you get to relax. Yes, I have to make this work very powerful right now. Yeah, like that feeling of like urgency. Sleep when you're dead. Yeah. So what I'd love to do is just have everyone pick one. Yeah, there's always more to do. Pick one belief that, whether it's one that you named or someone else named, that it's just kind of hitting home for you, one that you want to work with today, that you sense there's some stuff going on in your body. No one will help you. Yeah. And so we're going to explore that a little bit in our bodies and just kind of see what's there. So let's just kind of start by just coming to that belief again, just kind of landing in your body again, bringing up that belief and just seeing what's here. When you think about that belief, when you maybe imagine it, hold it with you, just sensing in to what's happening inside. So you might notice, where is there contraction? Is there contraction inside? When I hold this belief with me. Is there any openness anywhere? We're kind of just logging what's happening inside. Has your breathing changed at all now that you're holding that belief with you? Yeah, yeah, you're breathing out harder. And are there any specific locations in your body that are coming up in your awareness more strongly as you hold this belief? And feel, you can work with it yourself. Feel free to share too. It's great to share. So just noticing, yeah, chest is heavy. And as you sense in, if there is a location that's standing out, you might see, are there any shapes, colors, textures? Is there a temperature? Kind of, we're just understanding a little bit more of the landscape of whatever this discomfort is. So in the chat, constriction in your throat and chest, contraction in your stomach. And then sensing in if there are any emotions that are present. So again, we're kind of just logging. These are the different ways that this belief is impacting my body, being held in my body. And so here's a point. Sadness, black, warm, some anger. Good. So whenever I work with people in groups, I always just put it out there that everyone's nervous system is different. And so I like to teach that we all have different growth edges with our nervous systems. So a lot of the goal of somatic work is to become more flexible, more resilient, to have a bigger capacity. So we're all going to have different places where we're kind of like a little bit more constricted, or we have more or less capacity. So like, for instance, some people might, when discomfort comes up, they like always lean away from it and avoid it, right? So it's a growth edge for them to start to like sense the discomfort a little bit, maybe like lean into it a little. And for some people, they like dive into the discomfort, or they like ride waves of emotion, right? And for those people, it's helpful to know that you don't have to do that, that you can also like be grounded and be resourced and then also feel some of the discomfort. So I just want to let you know that, you are the kind of master explorer of your own system. So whenever there's something that you want to explore, you can do that, and you can kind of get a sense for like, where can I grow with my nervous system? So I'm reading Amanda, upper body constriction when focused on the doubt. Also openness when focusing on a broader perspective and universal signals. I like that. So you kind of are having a both and experience. And that's a little bit of what we're going to play with here. So there's probably, for most of us, there's some kind of discomfort that came up. There might be constriction or like an emotion, something that like doesn't necessarily feel good. And there also might be some sense of like the resource that's still with you, or the openness, your feet on the floor, like whatever that was for you. And so let's just do a little bit of what's called pendulation between these two experiences. And this is something that can just help your nervous system to create more space and metabolize some of the survival energy that's stuck here. So what we can do is, again, just kind of sensing in, start by leaning in to whatever's resourced for you. The openness, it could be, yeah, like your feet were on the floor, or there was, your spine felt stable. So whatever that resource is, just being with that in your body, noticing it, taking it in. And then pendulating to the discomfort. So now noticing the discomfort wherever it's located, if it has a shape or a color or an image, just noticing it, taking it in. And then I want to give you an invitation to sense what your system needs. So see if it feels right to just kind of stay with the discomfort, because sometimes then it shifts and it changes or it opens. Or if it feels better to you to hold both the discomfort and the resource, or might feel better for you to move back into the resource. And so you can just kind of sense where your system is now. If it feels good to do another round of leaning back into one, or holding both the discomfort and the resource, or maybe things are shifting inside. And maybe if you want to drop into the chat a little bit of what you're noticing. What was that like for you? Is there any movement of energy inside? Anything shift? Anything come up? I think I see some people typing. I want to jump ahead, but you also don't have to share. So what we're going to do next is we're going to keep kind of moving along on this process. And we're going to get curious about like whatever is still here for you, and it might have changed. But we're still working with that belief, and we're still working with, okay, a couple things coming in. I was like, I feel like they're going to come in. It felt really powerful to hold both the discomfort and my resource at the same time. Good. I'm enjoying trying to, I don't need an emoji. I'm enjoying trying to hold both the distress and the resource at the same time. It's a curious feeling. I think I might be pendulating in my awareness when I do it. It was tough to sit in the discomfort today. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for just kind of sharing where you're at. So you can see how even on different days, we're going to have different edges to our nervous systems, and depending on the content too. Sometimes like it's surprising how much activation there can be around things that we don't expect. Physical feeling of cooling, many thoughts and ideas flow through when I allow the urgency and doubt to subside. Nice. So it sounds like there's some flow that comes through. I feel like I need to sit with the discomfort. I am being in awareness. Yeah, so thank you guys for sharing. It's great. And this is a really helpful, I think, framework to just, hey, something's coming up for me. What's happening in my body? Where is there a resource? Where is there discomfort? Do I want to lean into the discomfort? Do I want to lean into the resource? Do I want to hold both? Do I want to pendulate? So it's really transferable to like anything, this kind of framework, right? Sitting with the discomfort is hard for me too. My habit is to use my resources quickly without pendulating to the discomfort. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that sometimes it's part of the journey. The more nervous system work we do, we keep building up capacity. The more capacity we have, we do tend to have more of an edge to lean into the discomfort and to like trust that we have the capacity to do that. Okay, so we're going to explore a little bit more with this. Again, just it might still be that original belief, or things might have evolved in your system a little bit. So feel free to kind of explore. But what I want to get curious about is whatever that charge or discomfort, tension, whatever it is that's in your system, let's just get curious about what nervous system actual like responses are there. So kind of, I'm going to go through them and just sense in and see if you get like a yes, that one's there. And there might be more than one, but you might get like, yes, that's a very prominent one. So with this feeling, the discomfort, whatever's inside, is there fight energy there? So is there fight energy? Just kind of sensing into that. So that might be like anger, irritability, like wanting to hit something, wanting to push something away, wanting to set a boundary, fire, some examples, right? Is there flight energy here? Just sensing into your body, you might get a yes or a no or like a ping. That might be like wanting to run away, wanting to like move away from or get away from, like anxiety or just feeling really uncomfortable kind of in your own skin. Okay, and then again, just checking in, is there freeze? Is there a freeze response here? Seeing if you get a yes or a no. So freeze might also be shutdown or dissociation. It's kind of a family of responses. So it might feel like stuckness of your breath, or like kind of like a little bit of paralysis or numbness, stagnation, feeling disconnected or not fully here. And again, just checking in, is there fawn energy here? So that would be like, fawn is people pleasing, right? Do I feel small? Do I feel like I'm shrinking? Is there helplessness? Is there like a sense of like wanting approval, or like a fear of like being excluded? And those are some clues that there might be some fawn response. And we can have, with whatever's going on in your system, as you brought up that belief and started working through it, there can be overlapping responses too. So I'm curious if anyone like had any kind of clear answers there, if anyone wants to share any fight, flight, freeze, fawn, if you have a sense for any of those in your nervous system as you kind of held this belief with money. And maybe how you noticed it was helpful too, if anyone wants to share. Freeze and flight. Mm-hmm. Feel compassion towards this part of myself that I've been blocking. Beautiful. Yeah, and I noticed that compassion really comes up a lot when we start to identify that like parts of us just aren't feeling safe. And when we do have these like discomfort inside, or the fight, flight, freeze energy, something in us is trying to protect us, trying to create safety. So combo of fight, flight, freeze. I get angry and feel exhausted and unmovable, also would like to flee. Mm-hmm. I sensed fight and fawn. I knew fight because my sensations in my body got pretty loud when you named that one. Yeah, and you had said anger too earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just kind of taking that in, these are some different responses that are in people's nervous systems. And what we'll do is we'll do a couple practices together that can be helpful really like for any of the responses. You can just see if anything shifts or changes your energy. Again, just it's all invitational, so trust your body if you want to try these things or if something else would feel better. And another person saying fawn is strongest. So the first thing that we're going to try is something called a VU breath. So it's a special kind of breath that engages the diaphragm and kind of like creates vibration in the gut and like the vagus nerve. So this breath, it really can be helpful for like no matter what response is happening inside of you, because it can help you settle if you're kind of like more feeling like anxious, or it can help mobilize you if you're kind of stuck or frozen. So what we'll do is just we're going to breathe in and out. And then we're going to breathe in and we're going to let out this breath from our diaphragm that sounds like this. So that V sound on your lips and then the ooh sound. And just going to let it all the way out of the diaphragm. And then we're just going to pause and notice what happens. So again, we're going to go in, out, in, VU. All right. So breathing in and out. And in. So just pausing, seeing what you notice. Now I invite you to bring a little bit of movement in. So you might try a little bit of sweeping just from like your shoulder, gently down your arm to your fingers. It's kind of helping to move some energy. You can try that same thing down chest, hips, legs. When we have the survival energy, it does like to have a path to discharge out of the body, and it likes to discharge out the extremities. And it may or may not be ready to do that. That's fine. We're kind of giving it some options. And you can also try moving joints, wrists, ankles, knees, shoulders. Again, just mobilizing the joints so it creates some pathway. If you feel like, whoa, that there's a lot discharging, you can also come back to your resource. And again, I'm gonna put out another invitation because people have different things going on in your nervous systems. Again, remember, you can go back to your resource. You don't have to keep going with these different options. So I want to put something out there for those who felt some fight energy. It could also be helpful for those who feel some flight energy. Can even be helpful for freeze, right? But taking either your hands or your feet, and you can push on the floor or on the desk or whatever you have accessible to you. What you really want is like to feel some pushing and to feel some engagement of your muscles, of your core. Just noticing that. And just check in if there's any movement. So kind of just tend to your body in this moment. That might be a little bit of rocking. It may be a little self-touch. Could be orienting and looking around the room. Maybe just focusing on your breath, doing some slower or deeper breaths. Really let your intuition and your body's inner wisdom guide you here. You're stretching, moving. For me, it's feeling good to move my hips and rotate them a little bit. Like there's a little stickiness inside there around my spine. And then do a little check-in with what you started this whole process with. You know, we started with this belief, a belief that's like held maybe from your family or just been held with you, and just see how it feels in your body now to check back in with where we started with that original belief. Just holding it in your awareness, seeing what you notice. And just be curious. You can ask, is there anything that I need to receive? Any information for me to receive right now as I just kind of sit with where I am, with my body, myself? And I'd love to hear from it, sharing whatever came through for you, anything you want to share in the chat about that experience and what's happening for you in your world right now. I'd love to hear from you. My body wants to shake. Yeah. And what you can do with that, Yesenia, you can play a little bit with like, what's it like to feel that the impulse to shake inside my body? You can play with some movement too. And see if it wants to discharge a little bit. My discomfort moved from my solar plexus to my head. Okay. Good noticing. It's amazing how just a few seconds and minutes with intention can shift energy. I just imagined a beautiful light stream, cooling, calming white light hovering above my head and wanting to move down my body. Nice. Mine moved from throat and chest into solar plexus. Oh, so you and Sarah just exchanged energy. I do want to discharge this this heaviness, I believe. Yeah. And so Yesenia, you can sense into that a little. And I haven't mentioned this word yet on the call, but something with nervous system work, you can probably notice we're going kind of slow, we're being gentle. It's like titration, doing a little bit at a time. If you're not sure and you're like, okay, I kind of think this wants to release, you can do a little movement, right? You can sense a little bit of the shaking at a time and then kind of take a break and come back to the resource. And that way you don't kind of flood your or overwhelm your nervous system. I love the visual of sweeping energy into and out of the extremities. That helps me feel more regulated. Yeah, I do that practice a lot. I do that a lot right before I see clients. It's just kind of, okay, you know. So thank you guys for sharing. And okay, there's more coming in. Love it. I asked what I needed to know, and I'm supported and I am not alone came through. Seeing the faces and sensing into the land that I live on felt connected. Love it. Yeah. And, you know, when we're doing this work, I like to think about that there's the nervous system and then there's sort of like the embodied wisdom, and they do overlap. Um, the more that I think you integrate this work, the more they kind of become this beautiful, like singular force. But a lot of times earlier in the work, there's like nervous system is just like, everything is danger. And then like it kind of keeps you from hearing your embodied wisdom. And so when you do nervous system practices, just be curious about like, I don't need to know or make sense of this at the beginning, because we do a lot of meaning making. And when our nervous system is dysregulated, the meaning is not necessarily going to be the most helpful like channel to explore. But after we've moved some of the energy in our bodies and maybe something new has come online, that's a great time to just open to receiving new wisdom. Like Carrie shared, right at the end of a practice. Okay, so like, is there anything I need to know now? Is there anything that wants to come through now after things have settled and moved a little bit? Yes, want to discharge the heaviness, full body. A thought came in, my value does not equate to monetary measurement, though I am deserving of being valued in this way. Love that. And I agree, Carrie, more support and connection. Yeah, and so this is a practice that you can repeat with anything, especially in regards to money. Just get curious about how money's sitting in your body. Right? Get curious about what survival responses are coming up around it and start working a little bit with discharging them, because it's going to help create more clarity in your system around like what actually feels true for you. And yeah, so feel free if anything else, you know, anyone wants to share anything else. You know, this whole practice so far was really around releasing things that maybe are from our past, limiting beliefs, stuck survival responses. And that is like super important work, like that releasing work in working with money, but also equally important is creating a new relationship with money, you know? So especially as I like to think about this in that generational way, like we are letting go of a lot from previous generations, but like what do we want to pass on to future generations in regards to our relationship with money? So I like to really think about it as a relationship. So I don't know if anyone here has done like some good work in relationship before. Maybe you have a really strong connection with a partner or with like the land or the earth. Those are ones that I like to lean into and as like a reference. I'll think about the relationship I have with my partner and how it's like, oh, sometimes there's discomfort or like an unknown, and like, how do I show up and kind of like navigate that space with them? And I like to think about, reflect in my relationship with money, like how I feel in my relationship with the earth. Like I shared earlier, I do like a lot of my earlier life's work is like in working with the earth. And that's definitely like carried through with me. And when you do embodiment work, it just naturally happens that like a lot of people start really like, wow, there's a natural flow here. My body is nature. And so when we think about our relationship with Earth is this feminine presence. It is supportive. It wants to take care of us. It wants to give to us. And can we let ourselves receive that support? Can we let ourselves take in that support? And also, do we tend to the earth, right? Like we want to take care and be respectful. So there's a mutual relationship, there's a reciprocal relationship. And that's kind of that energy that you might want to start bringing in your relationship with money. How can I have a reciprocal relationship with this energy and this force that is in all of our lives? Like maybe one day it'll go away, but like it's probably here to stay for our lifetime. So let's actually start to just figure out what we want that relationship to be like, instead of, just kind of sometimes avoiding it or sometimes being really overly attached. Like you can think about it almost like how you've looked at like codependence before, or it like overly independence, right? These relational components. Can we be interconnected in our relationship with money? So there's different ways you might play with envisioning money as like a figure, as an image, as something that you can actually sit with and like have conversations with and see how it feels in your body and what kind of messages the energy of money might have for you. And so we're going to do this exercise where we're going to explore kind of what's going on in our bodies around the language that we use with money. So just kind of drop in a little bit. We're going to track what kind of sensations or emotions come up, if there's constriction, if there's openness, if your posture changes. So I'm just going to say a statement and just see what happens inside. I really like massages, but they are so expensive. Okay. So does anyone want to share anything with that? And you can replace it. Like, I really love buying like the nicest food at the natural food store, but it is so expensive. I really want to invest in that coach, but she is so expensive. So just kind of see like what happens inside when that language is used. My mind said, but massages are a basic need for me, LOL. Yeah. Restrictive. It feels restrictive, kind of small. Mm-hmm. When I say I notice that there's like a sinking feeling, it's like, like I feel like deflated. My body tenses up. Mm-hmm. Both backing away, constriction, and fast opening, almost violent assertiveness, move forward and open. Yeah, it sounds like there's like two different, almost opposite responses happening there. Yes, I agree on the restriction. Same for me, constriction and feeling small. Yeah. Okay. And so, I want to, yeah, that's my first thought, shrinking, small, constriction. I want to just like acknowledge that we are going to go through different phases in our relationship with money. So there may be like, sometimes you hear and it's just be abundant and just like feel abundant and just like trust, like let money flow out and it'll flow back. And that could definitely be a phase that is very aligned at some point. And like, it's oftentimes more complex than that, just like a real relationship. It might be that like there are times in which it is really growth for us to really like be very tending to our bank accounts and be really discerning and thoughtful and sensing in like, is this an aligned investment for me? Oh, what else can I do to tend to this money better? Am I avoiding certain things that around like my finances that would help me, right? So you have to kind of just be looking inside and seeing what's true for you, and growing and tending to that. You know, so another statement that you might just see how it lands. It feels good to invest in massages for myself. It feels good to invest in healthy, good food for myself. Feels good to invest in support for myself. And just kind of see what responses are there. See if it affects your body, your posture. Personally, I'm conflicted with the statement because it reminds me that many people can't afford their basic needs. Yes. And this is all part of navigating the relationship with money, is like, we're not trying to hide these different pieces that come up for us, including like, I want things to be accessible for people. So how do I navigate what happens inside of me and my relationship with money around that? Yeah. So another one to kind of see how it lands inside. It feels good to practice discernment in how I invest money. Slightly different. So yeah, Nicole said that feels more warm, a bit more open, and at the same time, some resistance that comes from a feeling of scarcity, right? Changing word from like to invest presupposes a positive in the investments, feels good. Right. Open, like I was smiling inside. Yeah. You know, I was going to mention with the thought of like, when you're holding other people's struggle with money kind of with your own, I think that is one thing that I've dealt with a lot. And it's really helpful to a practice that I got from someone else was, whenever I'm feeling good, if money comes into my world, if I'm experiencing a piece of abundance or gratitude, I can just remind myself how I'm not hurting anyone right now. Like, I'm receiving and I'm not hurting anyone right now. Empowering, discerning, heart opening, and further clarity, investing in myself can also help others through my work. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to touch again a little bit on safety. Like, whenever in any of these statements, if there was some level of contraction, there's probably a lack of safety around something. And so maybe coming back to that original image of the water flowing in, the reservoir holding the water flowing out, the money flowing in, the money being held, the money flowing out, and just sensing in, okay, am I feeling any more clarity around like in where I really need to work on my level of safety in one of those three spaces, with money flowing in, with money being held, with money flowing out. And it might be more than one, right? Can give you a kind of a space to begin focusing on a little bit, shifting your language, shifting your embodiment, your relationship. And you might like kind of log that for yourself. Here's a space where I want to create more safety in my nervous system. So it is difficult for me to visualize a body of water that flows. I visualize a dragon sitting on a pile of coins and grabbing at any that try to roll away. Yeah. And so maybe just being curious about whether the dragon feels safe. Yeah, I like Carrie's little like frown for the dragon. But it's interesting to kind of have, sounds like a pretty protective, there's a protective response there, right? Trying to hold, really trying to hold that money. And so it could even just be a visual to play with in your body. Here's what it feels like when it's holding those coins, that money. Oh, here's what it feels like if I imagine it like that dragon kind of maybe allowing some coins to roll away. Like what happens inside when I do that? You can play with whatever imagery comes up for you. Let your body kind of speak to you and play with the language that your body provides for you. So we're going to move into another practice that is, again, it's kind of for like cultivating what do I actually want my relationship with money to be like. And so there's different kinds of tapping out there, and what we're going to do isn't EFT tapping, but it's a different kind of tapping. Here on the sternum, it's like there's this little soft spot between the collarbones, and right under that there's the hard sternum. And so we're just going to do a little bit of gentle tapping here, and join in if you want. This underneath the sternum here is the thymus gland in the body, and that's like kind of like a commander and a central place for the immune system. And this is a place like with energy work that kind of helps bring life force into the body when you tap on it. So it's something that you can use when you are kind of saying affirmations in a more embodied way and like seeing, oh, what happens in my body when I'm saying things like that. I'm really working on believing, to a deeper level. And so I'll put some out there, and you can say them out loud if you want. You can say them in your head, and then I'll give some space. So I have some I can say, but like I want to give space if people want to drop some that are coming up for them into the chat, or if you want to come off mic and say it out loud, then we can kind of have like a communal, we are affirming some new beliefs that we want to have in our relationship with money. So tapping, sensing your body. I desire a safe relationship with money. And you can say that out loud if you want. Say it in your head. Just see what sensations you notice. You're just kind of noticing how your body feels after you say it. I desire a stable relationship with money. Mm-hmm. I desire an intimate relationship with money. And if there's any like yawns coming up, like I can feel a yawn coming through, so you can let that go if any yawns come up or any other kind of sensations come through. And I just want to open it up to if anyone wants to drop any beliefs that they want to affirm into the chat or that are coming up for them now that they want to say. You can also come off mic.
My relationship with money can be pleasurable.
My relationship with money can be pleasurable. Yeah, sensing that one in my body.
It's safe for me to desire more money.
It's safe for me to desire more money. Sensing that one. I desire a playful relationship with money. Love that. I desire a playful relationship with money. And you can also just say if there's any coming up for you that you want to say to yourself, you don't necessarily have to share them. I can release old traumas around safety and money. Yes. I can release old traumas around safety and money.
My relationship with money doesn't have to look like everyone else's.
Mhm. My relationship with money doesn't have to look like everyone else's. I am willing to grow in my relationship with money. And so keep tapping if there's any more that you want to say to yourself. I am deserving of a healthy relationship with money. I am deserving of abundance. And you can even play with how you say these things too. There's a difference to I am deserving of abundance and I am deserving of abundance. So play a little bit with how you say them, how it resonates in your body and your bones. And there's no right or wrong way to say. Yeah, and feel free to move, rocking. And as you said these, there's no right or wrong for like how your body's responding either. Saying like what you want to believe and noticing, hey, there's expansion, or like that feels so good, or well, it kind of feels good, but there's also something in me that constricts when I say that. That is all helpful information. One of the reasons why I like bringing affirmations into the space of embodiment rather than only mindset, right? Because when we're sensing into our body, we are sensing like, yeah, that's like a hell yes, like 100% I'm on board, or I'm like 80% on board, but like 20% of me is still kind of having a problem with this, right? We aren't trying to bypass that 20%, but we're creating more awareness, and awareness just on its own always creates more opportunity for healing and shifting. So yeah, and if you have a journal with you, I saw some people had pen and paper. If there's any that like really did resonate with you that you want to write down, feel free to do that. Like, oh, hey, here's one that like that really resonated with me, or there's one that like kind of brought up some resistance or constriction, and I think I need to work with that more. Yeah. So you can kind of just keep taking care of your body, doing whatever feels good for you. And we're going to move a little bit into talking about how I kind of see some of this work unfolding like on a longer time frame with clients. I want to touch a little bit on the group program that I have in September, and share like a story of a client and how this work kind of unfolds over time, because it is work that kind of needs like repeat, like it's a practice, right? One of my mentors says like she treats her business as a practice, which I love. Another belief, my abundance will be unique to me and in alignment with my work and capacity, always shifting as I evolve. I love that. So as we keep kind of coming back to the body and the nervous system, we're building more capacity. We are becoming more resilient. We're having more expansiveness that can actually like be sustained. And so it takes coming back, it takes practice to like increase that window of tolerance. And it takes capacity to hold joy and to hold those big positive things too, not just the capacity to, navigate challenges. So yeah, I have this group program coming up in September. It's called Somatic Shift. I know some of you guys already know about it. And I just wanted to share a little bit, maybe have Carrie chime in a little bit about it too, who's on the call. Carrie's going to be assisting me this round, and she was in the program the last round. And I'd love, maybe it's just like nice to hear other voices. So Carrie, do you want to just share maybe how did that impact you and your business? What was most impactful for you about the program?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I took Nicole's somatic shift, participated in the somatic shift container last time. And the thing that shifted the most for me was, I think, my ability to kind of lean into what I was experiencing rather than like push through or to like completely avoid. I started my business in 2019, right before the pandemic. So there's been like a lot of lows and then like a lot of highs, but sometimes that space in between is really difficult for me to sit with. And like I noticed it the most coming into the summer season, which is pretty, it tends to be a little slower with the type of events that I host. And instead of like just like sitting with that in like a really like shitty place of just like, oh, this sucks, or like sometimes the guilt comes through. Like, I'm not saying the guilt doesn't still show up, but it still comes through of like, oh, I should be, working on my business now. But I really, these past few weeks, I really leaned into just like letting things unfold. If I have time and space and I feel like I want to be out in nature, I just do that. And then that was kind of for like about 3 weeks. Things were really like in a standstill point for me. And I spent a lot of time around water. I spent a lot of time out, like at this little hammock area and my trees. And then just in the last week, like things are just like dripping in. Like I'm ready. I had started working on before those, 3 weeks, month or so. I'd started working on launching my one-on-one container. And then I like ran away from that for a second, but all this stuff has been dropping in where it's like, oh, I'm not forcing it now. It's just kind of like naturally unfolding. And it feels better. I feel like I'm not as like manic and like my brain's not as chaotic. The other thing for me that was like really important that I got out of it was like a community. Like, we build these containers, we spend time together over a few months, and it's like there's now these relationships that have formed where we can support each other in business. I have people I can send clients to, people can send clients to me. There's somebody I can call to like say that I'm going through something in my business and I don't feel so alone. So and because Nicole's like such a nervous system wizard, like she really has helped me and the people that also were in the container like embody these practices. So it's not like I think I felt in the past like, oh, there's this thing that somebody taught me once and how did you do it, or where did I write that down, or was there a video? But it's like, no, like it lives in my body because we were able to really be with it from a nervous system perspective. So I'm really excited to be alongside you, helping out with the next one.
Yeah. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that. And I think that is the key, right? Is if we want like lasting change in how we approach our businesses, we need it to be coming at this like root deep level of the body and the nervous system, because it does stay with us. It stays with us when something happens in the future that is challenging and dysregulating. And then we're like, oh, wait, my nervous system actually knows how to regulate a lot better now than it used to. And so it doesn't like having a business, it's not easy, but it can be easeful. And that's sort of like the path here. It's like we're developing a lot of inner resources that help support us on this journey, and a lot more trust and flow, and following our intuitions and our inner voice, quieting that nervous system down so we can actually hear, like, there's something very aligned for me in this direction. Can I trust it? And so I wanted to share a little bit about one client who was in the program, just to kind of give you an image of a little bit of like what's possible. Carrie gave you some like on her side. And like I said, everyone has different nervous systems, right? So this client came in with, see if you can relate to some of it in your body too, right? Kind of like scattered, like I have so many passions in many directions, and like her energy being in a lot of different directions and having a hard time like landing and settling and on something actually being aligned. And also just kind of struggling with like valuing herself and like where to put her prices and how to set boundaries with clients. And then also kind of struggling with like public speaking and like speaking in front of people and showing up online to actually talk about like her business and what she does in a confident way, which is like really big, right? I mean, if you think about for yourself, like when you go out and you're not really expecting it and someone's like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I don't know, I do this, right? So this is like getting things down deeper into the body so like that reaction doesn't happen, and so that we actually can feel just a lot more embodied in like our actual like identity as this is what I do. So she had like some really special moments, like when we were on the calls we do the practice, right? We're actually in the work on the calls, which means that you have like a safe space, like there's more capacity created for your nervous system by being in this container to notice when I practice talking about an offering, whoa, like, oh my God, what happens in my nervous system? So for this client, you know, she did this practice where she was pretending to talk about something for, you know, an offering. And she like had heat coming up and she was like laughing. And then she was like, am I going to cry? Like, it was just like a lot of like response, heat and activation, like nerves coming up. And this stuff is very physiological, right? So this is kind of where we're like looking underneath just the mindset work to be like, you could like talk yourself in a lot to like, I'm going to show up and be confident, but like, that doesn't mean that like your heart's not going to start racing and you're not going to like be shaking, right? So we kind of had like a safe space so that she could discharge some of that energy and then like tap into some resource. And there were a lot of other instances like that with different people on these calls where it's just like, this is a safe space to like practice and feel into like, what is not working for you right now? Where are you stuck right now? Be able to discharge some of that energy, resource yourself. And then all these women were going out into their lives, into their businesses, and actually like taking these steps. So like this client that I'm talking about, she raised her prices. She had new clients come in. She like set boundaries with a client who was kind of, you know, she felt a little taken advantage of. And she did like her biggest kind of like offering for people, like speaking in front of people, and did it really well. And so and she became more focused, you know, like she was able to kind of choose like this is actually for this time in my life, what is aligned. And so yeah, I mean, at the end she was just like, holy crap, I feel so much more empowered as an entrepreneur. Like I actually feel like an entrepreneur now, and I feel like a badass and proud of myself. And so, you know, that wasn't like a singular instance. That was like a very kind of consistent thing that I think is really special about this work, is like you get to actually see what comes up and work with it so that you can then make the changes and then bring it back in and be like, hey guys, like I actually raised my prices and my client said yes. And everyone's like, whoa, maybe I can do that too, you know? So we kind of like help build each other up and affirm that like this actually is, we actually have this level of value and this is possible, and it's not crazy to feel empowered as a woman entrepreneur. Like when we're in it on our own, it can feel a little bit crazier to be like, money does like matter, and I do want to have more money coming into my life, and that's not crazy to want that. So that's just a little bit more about kind of a specific person going through that container. And you know, I'll share links to there's some crazy stuff going on with your screen, Amanda, and on my end. I will share some links about the program so you can check it out more and read into it. And just feel free to reach out to me and ask any questions or discuss it. And I also have a one-on-one container if that's like more the vibe of what you're needing support with. Yeah. So I'm just kind of opening it up for any shares. If anyone has anything else that they would like to share from our practice today, any questions, just like some Q&A time. I'm happy to answer your questions about the containers, about what you notice in your nervous system, about like this specific topic with money. So yeah, just opening it up for that. Don't be afraid to ask a question that you're like, oh, this feels like a weird question to ask. You know, if there's something that like is coming up for you in your life or your business or money that you're kind of having a hard time with, it's a great time to get some support. Thanks, Sharon. Loved it, felt very practical with tools that are useful and creative. And if you want to put your question in the chat, you can, or you can ask it out loud. And while people are thinking, I love the idea of combining money and nervous system regulation. It feels really important. Yeah. I just want to remind everyone that there is a giveaway that I will announce at the end of the second call. So if you just share about the masterclass on your Instagram and tag me at the Mind Body Way, then I'll enter you into a drawing to win $700 of credit to use towards Somatic Shift or towards Thrive, my one-on-one container, or just towards any other online offering that I have for the next year. So take advantage of that if you would like to use it. I wish I had Instagram. Anyone want to share anything else from their experience today?
The thymus tapping, that's something I've done a good bit before, but never in relationship to like pairing it with the affirmations. So that was really nice to like pair that flow of the energy of the life force with like the words. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And I'll also just mention on Thursday, we have like our second call, and we're just going to be building on this, and we're going to be diving more into some of kind of like the energetic and spiritual side of this work that I like to, it's really important to me to like have the roots in the body and the nervous system when we kind of enter into that space as well, with tapping into like, how do we call the money in? And, you know, is there some extra support that we can get? Yeah, you're welcome, Yesenia. And yeah, just money is a very worthwhile thing to spend time with. So I just again applaud you for being here. And just acknowledging a lot of the kind of common beliefs that come up for people who I know a lot of people in here are like healers and people who are trying to care for the earth and do good things in the world. So just a little like affirmation that like wanting to make more money doesn't make you a bad person. And if you have more money, you won't become a bad person. And money doesn't have to be like coupled together with greed. And you can call more money in and work more with money in your life and also still be spiritual still be grounded, centered, still be a loving person. And I think that the more that we do this work as women, and the more that we can, especially for people who are space holders and who are showing up in the world and helping others, just imagining how many people that you might work with, how many clients you might have who are also going to have issues with money, you know, and navigating this space of like, I can kind of stay in the relationship that I'm growing, and I can notice if others are kind of projecting their money issues onto me, and I can like start to have a little more discernment around that. Because I noticed that a lot. Like, it's not happening so much for me now, but in the past I was like just having a lot come up. If someone would be like, your prices are just too high, like someone would need to make like 6 figures if they were going to work with you. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but like, you know, there's a lot, like all this stuff like kind of can come up and like, oh, well, what if they're right? Or like, what if, and I think just acknowledging that like a lot of this is nuanced. Like we've mentioned in here, there is a lot of like inequality of wealth in the world. So as we navigate this space within ourselves, we're getting more clear on like, what are my values? How am I like staying in integrity while I navigate money in my nervous system? And your body is going to be able to tell you when something is really clicking in and it's really right for you. Like, for example, my group container somatic shift coming up has sliding scale spots, you know? And so for me to kind of work out, what is that going to look like for me? To what extent am I going to, how do I provide for myself and represent my value while also creating accessibility for people who are just coming at this with different financial backgrounds and giving opportunities? Because I want people who have maybe more like of a issues with poverty, or like they've just had a lot of crappy stuff happen to them in life. Like this world, this country doesn't really support people that well who like get sick, or like just different things that happen in life that can really like drain you financially. Like I want there to be community care in our relationship with money. So you get to kind of be the creator of how you are going to be working with money in your life. And so I just encourage a deep dive into all the nooks and crannies and corners, and don't be afraid to look. There's a couple more things that came in through here. I can now imagine the dragon intentionally and gingerly with care placing individual coins into a small, slow flowing river. I love that. Yes, thank you. Would love to strengthen skills in management of my own nervous system while expanding my practice. It will help my flow with clients and students, along with easing my own process. Have to go to a doctor appointment. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I'm an empath. I've been connecting with a lot of people with money issues. Yes. Thank you, Yesenia. It's really nice to have you here. Really good to meet you. Quite a few of my female clients lately are discussing money distress. Interesting how what one focuses on personally can be called in and reflected in professional space with clients. Yeah, for sure. So just kind of imagining like how much more resource can be brought on board and wisdom just by doing your own nervous system work and your own work with money. I appreciate your shares, everyone. It's been lovely to see you all, and I hope to see more of your faces on Thursday. And for anyone who's watching the replay, thanks for listening, sending you love as well. And you can still come to the call Thursday or catch the replay on the call Thursday, whatever works for everyone. Yeah. Any other questions or anything before we sign off? I'm not in any rush to depart. But thank you guys. It was really lovely having this space with you, having your participation. And, you know, you might want to come back and use some of the practices again in the replay. All right. Hope to see you on Thursday. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Nicole.